Welcome back. So today we have two cases that we are going to discuss. The first one, let us start. A 30-year-old man appears with a lesion on her neck that is ulcerous. A black necrotic eschar surrounds the ulcer, which is accompanied by edema. The man first noticed the lesion 2 weeks ago as a painful little red macule that progressed to an ulcer and then turned painless over the last 4 days. The patient says that he works in the imported wool industry. Second case, a 30-year-old farmer comes with an ulcerated lesion on the back of his hand that has become black and necrotic. His hands have swelled and has recently gotten a fever and headache, even though the lesion does not hurt. Upon further questioning, it is discovered that several of the patient's cattle have recently died of unknown circumstances. Okay, so obviously, what is the clinical diagnosis? What is the most likely agent? Pathogenesis, investigation, treatment, and prevention. That is what we are going to discuss. So, what are the clues, or what are the conclusion, or what are the common things between two cases? First of all, there is an ulcer and surrounded by edema, and the ulcer has Eschar, that is black color necrosis, and ulcer is not painful, right? It is painless, and there is exposure to some kind of animal or animal products. For example, in first case it is wool, and in second case patient's cattle are recently dying. So what it could be? Many of you have guessed it correct. It is anthrax. It is the cutaneous manifestation of anthrax. And as we all know, the causative agent is Bacillus anthracis. So let us little bit know about Bacillus anthracis. Bacillus anthracis is the first pathogenic bacterium to be seen under microscope by pollen tip. It is also the first bacterium to be isolated in pure culture by Robert Koch and forms the basis of Koch's postulates. The first live attenuated bacterial vaccine was also prepared from this bacterium by Louis Pasteur. So it is first in everything, right? There is another term known as anthracoid bacilli. Now, what is this term used for? The anthracoid bacilli, it is the term used for bacillus species other than anthracis. So they differ from Bacillus anthracis in following way. Most of them are non-pathogenic, except for Bacillus cereus and some few Bacillus species, which causes food poisoning, and they are common lab culture contaminants. They're usually non-capsulated, they're all motile, they usually form hemolytic colonies on blood agar, and they're usually penicillin resistant, so no string of pearl reaction on penicillin agar. Now, what is this string of pearl reaction that we will see later on in the session today itself? Now, Bacillus cereus causes emetic and diarrheal food poisoning and traumatic eye infection and medical device associated infection, as we have discussed last time. Those of you who have not seen that video, you can check the last video before this, that is Bacillus cereus food poisoning, where I have discussed in detail about Bacillus cereus and its infection. There is another bacillus which is known as thuringiensis, which is very closely related to Bacillus cereus, and it can occasionally also cause food poisoning, very similar to Bacillus cereus. And interesting thing about this bacteria is that it is a biological larvicidal agent which is used in mosquito control. Now, following Bacillus species spores are also used as a biological indicator for sterilization control. For example, for autoclave and plasma sterilizer, we are using Geobacillus stereothermophilus. For ethylene oxide and dry heat, that is hot and oven sterilizer, we are using Bacillus atrophius. So these points are very frequently tested on various competitive examination in MCQs or other exams, right? So let us understand now the pathogenesis. So anthrax is basically a disease of animal. It is basically a zoonotic infection which a human acquires if spores from this animal, which are usually herbivore or animal products. And there are three modes of infection. So I remember three I: inoculation, ingestion, and inhalation. So let us see what happens if the spores are inoculated into abrasions on the skin. They germinate, they multiply locally, they form toxin, anthrax toxin, which is released locally, and that is responsible for this cutaneous anthrax, or also known as malignant pustule, or also known as Hyde Potter's disease. And this is actually the most common form of anthrax. 95% of cases of anthrax are usually cutaneous anthrax. A lesion usually begins as papule, later on become pinless vesicle, and Cold black necrotic Eschar with non-pitting edema, induration is seen surrounding it. And it is usually self-limiting condition. Rarely it is fatal if it is untreated. What happens if it is ingested? If spores are ingested, they germinate and multiply locally into oropharynx and intestine. And this anthrax toxin, they cause lesions in throat as well as intestine. So it may cause dysentery, that is hemorrhagic diarrhea. So it is intestinal anthrax. And inhalation. Inhalation, if spores are inhaled, then respiratory tract, they will germinate and multiply. And from there, they can enter into circulation and multiply. So dissemination can happen. And anthrax toxin also will be secreted systemically. And this may lead to fever, dyspnea, non-productive dry cough, and hemorrhagic pneumonia. This is known as pulmonary anthrax, or it is also known as Wool-Sorter's disease. Now there are two names which have come, that is hide potters and wool sorter. Hide potter means people who used to work on docks. They these are known as potters, and they usually are carrying these animal hides on their back, uh, which are bare backs. And because this animal skin comes into contact with human skin, and if animal is infected with anthrax, the spores are inoculated into human skin, and that's why it is known as hide Potter's disease. This wool sorter's disease is basically because people who are working in wool industries, so they can inhale these anthrax spores from animal wool, and that may result in this hemorrhagic pneumonia or pulmonary anthrax. So that is the story behind these two names. So and from this pneumonia, you can get a massive edema in chest and result in cardiovascular shock and 100% mortality. So it is much more dangerous. And this is the anthrax, which is the most common form of anthrax associated with bioterrorism. So pulmonary anthrax is the most common form, which is associated with bioterror attacks. If we talk about epidemiological types of anthrax, there are two types. One which is associated with industrial exposure and which is not. So non-industrial is usually when you have farmers basically or any other people who are having agricultural exposure to animals. And second is industrial anthrax, where exposure to not to animals but to the animal products, basically in industries. For example, animal hides, hairs, bristles, and wools. So that's about epidemiological type of anthrax. Now, how this bacteria cause this uh, lesions? What are the virulence factors? So there are two main virulence factors that I would like to mention here. That is, one is its capsule, and capsule is very unique. This is the only bacteria which I can think of which has protein capsule. Usually, capsules are made up of polysaccharides in the bacteria, but here it is made up of protein. It is usually a polypeptide, and this polypeptide is made up of d-glutamic acid. So, a polypeptide d-glutamic acid capsule is there, and it is coated by a plasmid PX02, and obviously the function of capsule is to inhibit phagocytosis. So it is the only medically important bacteria having a protein capsule rather than a polysaccharide capsule. So capsule is one of the major virulence factor. And second, once it evades the immune cells, then it multiplies and release the anthrax toxin, and anthrax toxin is coated by another plasmid, that is PX01. Now, this anthrax toxin, it is basically made up of three fragments: PA, EF, and LF. Now, PA is basically protective antigen. It is made up of, uh, the portion which binds with the human tissues. And edema factor causes obviously edema, and lethal factor causes death. So individually, this fragment may be not that much toxic, but combination of them is definitely causes the toxigenicity. So what is the function of PA? PA basically, as I already mentioned, it is binding portion. It binds to cell membrane and it mediates entry of either EF or LF, whatever it has combined with. So PA can either combine with EF or it can combine with LF. So if EF enters into the body cells, then it will cause increase in adenylyl cyclase activity that will release increased cyclic AMP, which will drive fluids and ions out of the cells, and that may lead to edema around the cells. And it also will inhibit the polymorphonuclear leukocytes, that is the neutrophil. And LF, that is lethal factor, it is basically mitogen activated protein kinase, and it will inhibit or disrupt the cell signaling, which may result into cell death and tissue necrosis. And that's how the anthrax toxin works. And Bacillus anthracis It is very dangerous bacteria because it can be used as a biological weapons, the spores. And we have seen in the past also various attacks caused by the anthrax spores. So which investigations I should do? So based on the lesion, you can either collect pus, sputum, blood, or CSF, and then you can send it for microscopy culture and AST testing. So on microscopy, you will see these gram-positive rods in chains and aerobic, non-motile, bulging spores. And if you stain it with polychrome methylene blue, you will see this purple capsule around the blue bacilli, which is very famously known as Meffenheim reaction, and it is very frequently tested uh, question at various examination. So this bacteria is aerobe, non-fastidious. It will grow at around 37 degrees centigrade, but range is 12 to 45. And on various medium, its appearance is very frequently tested on MCQ examination. For example, on nutrient agar, it will give you a gray-white frosted glass type of appearance of the colonies. And if you examine these colonies under low power microscope, you can see the bacteria and long chains, interlacing chains of bacteria. It is like, yeah, you are looking at the matted hair of Medusa. So it is also known as a Medusa head appearance, which is also a very important question. Blood agar, it causes non-hemolytic dry wrinkled colonies. So this is very important. Non-hemolytic colonies on blood agar. It is very important because other bacillus, they are usually hemolytic. And on gelatin stab agar, it shows slowing of liquefaction. It means at top, that is maximum liquefaction. As it goes towards deep into the medium, the liquefaction gradually decreases. So it will give us an inverted fir tree appearance. There are two selective medium, penicillin agar and plate medium. Penicillin agar, if we see, the Bacillus anthracis is susceptible to penicillin. So if you use low level penicillin in the medium, what it will do, it will not kill the bacteria, but damages its cell wall and bacteria will start to swell. And you will see that not much of bacteria, but chain of cells are seen, which are swollen. So it resembles like a string of pearls, right? So that is known as string of pearl reaction. Plate is basically polymyxin lysozyme EDTA thalassacetate heart infusion agar, which is a selective medium to grow the Bacillus anthracis. So this is about its laboratory diagnosis. Microbiologists are more interested in this portion. Uh, Identification, if we make a smear out of this culture, then obviously we will see these long chains of gram positive bacilli with empty spaces in them. These empty spaces are nothing, it is basically the unstayed spores, and spores are usually non-bulging in case of bacillus. There is another spore bearing bacteria known as clostridium, and clostridium has these bulging spores that differentiated from. You can also stain these spores with help of either modified acid fast staining, but you have to use a very low concentration of sulfuric acid, that is 0.25, and that will stain the spore acid fast. Or you can use a special spore stain, that is malachite green, using Ashby's method. And we can also detect PCR with either BA, PX01 or PX02 primers, which will detect either protective antigen and capsule respectively. We can also detect antigen using various technique like direct immunofluorescence, which will detect this capsular antigen, and it is very useful for prompt detection during bioterror attacks. And Escol is ring thermoprecipitation test, where usually putrid specimen are received, especially of animal carcasses. There, it is more commonly used. Antibody detection by ELISA can also be done, but mainstay of diagnosis is usually the culture. What is the treatment for this condition? Cutaneous anthrax, we can give antibiotics. Now, penicillin susceptible, so you can give amoxicillin. If person is allergic to amoxicillin, you should give ciprofloxacin and doxycycline for 7 to 10 days. If it is pulmonary or intestinal or disseminated anthrax, then along with antibiotic, you should also give anthrax immunoglobulin because toxin has entered into systemic circulation and that has to be neutralized. And To prevent further release of toxin, you should clear the bacterial infection that will be done by antibiotics. That's the simple principle we have to remember. Prevention depends on what we want to achieve, whether we want to prevent it before exposure or after exposure. So before exposure, obviously vaccination is the best method. There are two types of vaccines which is available. One is for animal use and another for human use. For animal, we can use live attenuated non-capsulated spore vaccine. It is not safe for human. That's why we use it in animals, and only single dose is sufficient to give us a 1 year immunity. But for humans, we are using a toxoid. It is basically the PA portion, protective antigen portion. It is adsorbed on alum and precipitated, and so we make it toxoid. And obviously, what is the function of PA in anthrax toxin? It allows the toxin to attach to the human cells. But if we give this vaccine, it will form antibodies which will prevent this attachment by neutralizing the protective antigen. And the pre-exposure schedule is very interesting. You have to give this with intramuscular dose, 0.5 ml per dose is given. And total, there are five doses, three primary doses at 0, 1, and 6 months, and two booster doses at 6 and 12 months. And after that, you are immune for 1 year. So you have to give regular boosters every year. And what is the indication for taking anthrax vaccine? Obviously, if you're working with high risk conditions. For example, you're working with anthrax culture regularly, you are posted at some reference laboratory, or you are part of some team which handles the anthrax cases regularly, then you should take this vaccine. So, occupational exposure is there. Then, obviously, this vaccine is indicated in high risk occupations. Uh, if you're using animal products, you have to decontaminate it, and best method is autoclave. Yes, spores can be destroyed by boiling, but if they are on animal skin or dry earth or soil, they can survive for years. Disposal of animal carcasses by burning or causing deep burial in lime pits is recommended. So these are all pre-exposure measures. What we can do if exposure has already occurred, you are exposed to the anthrax spores, then obviously you have to take a long-term course of antibiotics. So either ciprofloxacin or doxycycline for 60 days, and you should give three doses of anthrax vaccine at 0, 2, and 4 weeks. So, accelerated schedule is there. The vaccine should be given subcutaneously instead of intramuscularly, 0.5 ml per dose. So, that concludes the anthrax case discussion. I hope you like this video. You have gain some new points. If you want to send any suggestion, comments, or you want any other new topic on which I should make a video, or you want to fill another knowledge gap which I have left inside this, do post it in comments and I will definitely look into it and make a video about it also. So do share this video with your friends, colleagues, your students, maybe. And if you want to buy this book from which these videos are being made, the book is already available on Amazon, Flipkart, Google Play Store as ebook. You can purchase paperback also from Amazon. So thank you all for support, love, and enthusiasm that you are showing about these videos. Happy learning. Bye bye.